Oh, come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
Hello, my name is Father Timothy Tighe, and this is our 172nd segment of our journey of faith in the light of the cross, and I thank you so much for joining us. We go to our screen and we see our theme for this segment. We read, "When we see the rethinking of the Old Testament during the Babylonian exile from 598 to 458 BC, can we see God's hand working to prepare Israel for the coming of the Messiah," which means Jesus the Anointed. So anointed and Messiah are the same word. We go to our next screen and we read, "The exiles in Babylon had a universal attitude which was in tension with Jerusalem's focused, segregated attitude. The exiles, as aliens and strangers, longed for a better home, but Jerusalem sought to rid itself of alien and strange influence to experience a better home here on earth. The exiles unexpectedly shared life and love in foreign lands and foreign languages. It just happened. Whereas Jerusalem taught God's life and love was spoken and shared only in the precise heavenly Hebrew of Jerusalem." We go on to our next screen. The first exiles returned to the ruins of Jerusalem in 538. It took them 22 years to build a modest second temple by 516. They called it the Second Temple. Now they asked, why did it feel like a shameful experience that it took so long? This caused another priestly reevaluation and addition in Babylon. Remember, they went back from Jerusalem to Babylon because that's where the great thinkers and writers were, to do the re-edition of Torah and the final reorganization of Torah as we have it today. So this is very important. In 458, Ezra took this final Torah back to Jerusalem and he had it publicly read to all the people, which we did in the last segment. Note well that Jerusalem and the modest Second Temple did have good effects on the exiles, and that's what we want to look into now on the next screen. What were the good effects? The temple reminded the exiles to stay focused on law and segregated, or they'd assimilate and stray from God. Assimilation means becoming similar to goyim or pagans, and when you become similar to them, it is death, because you're no longer peculiar and holy and you can't do God's work. Now the exiles were forbidden to eat or drink with ethnics, for they'd let down their conscious filters. When you eat and drink and talk with people, you forget and you let things go into you. And you ingest and digest pagan thinking and attitudes that cause spiritual indigestion, which means conflicted feelings and shame afterwards. So it's very important you stop and you ingest what they're thinking and saying, you digest it, and later on you wonder why you feel terrible. Jerusalem did focus Israelis as the people of God, for without it, there'd be no symbol to unify the exiles. We go on to our next screen. And we read even more, Jerusalem focused the exiles as a priestly people searching for God and his justice. The temple reminded exiles of God's promised Messiah, an anointed Christos. They all mean the same thing, anointed, to make sense of their history and pull together their scattered lives and thoughts. This is very important. That's how they felt. As the priest in exile struggled with all their thoughts in their minds, they turned to David, who personified Israel's hopes and dreams from Ezra in 450 BC forward to Jesus in 30 AD as God's anointed. So this was on their mind for 400 years. When is the Messiah coming? And it was very high when Jesus came. To know relevant stories about David for the exiles, we go back 500 years to 1000 BC and we read about David in 1 and 2 Samuel. We go to our next screen and we read 1 Samuel 16:1. God said to Samuel, "Fill your horn with oil, olive oil, and go to Jesse in Bethlehem." This is very important. It's only about 3 miles from Jerusalem, to Jerusalem. And we sing, O come, Emmanuel. O come, thou rod of Jesse's stem, from every foe deliver them. God chose David, who pastured sheep, to be anointed by Samuel the priest. This is very important. Yahweh said, arise and anoint him. So Samuel did. David believed, as God's anointed, that God was with him. So he bravely challenged Goliath. We go to our next screen. 1746. Now God will deliver you into my hands, David says to Goliath. And David did kill Goliath, for God was with his anointed. Now this is very important. The exiles had to believe that God was with them because they had monsters in their life to conflict with and fight with. 2 Samuel 5:1. All 10 tribes of Israel then came to David and said, 10 tribes of the northern part of the country, we are your bone and flesh. You freed us from the monster and brought us together. The Lord said, it is you who will shepherd Israel. So David made a covenant with them at Hebron. The Messiah will free and gather God's scattered people like David. Now, next, David has to face the Jebusite. Jerusalem was another monster to face. We go to our next screen and we read, so David marched to Jebusite-controlled Jerusalem. He took Zion, now called the city of David. They did it by going up the water shaft. Jerusalem is just north of Judah in Benjamin. It's not in Judah. So it is perfectly situated to unite north and south, Israel and Judah. We go to 2 Samuel 6:3. As they carried the Ark of the Covenant, David and all of Israel danced before it with songs and harps, tambourines and cymbals. This is important because David represents the music of the Psalms, all the Psalms we have, joyful singing and dance in the presence of the living God. You see, Orthodox still dance with the scrolls in their happiness following David. We go on to our next screen. They set the ark of the Lord inside a tent, the word tabernacle. Then David offered a burnt offering to the Lord. He sacrificed. Then he blessed the people and distributed food to them. Now David, as a priestly king, not a political king, offers sacrifice to join his people in oneness with God by eating of the sacrifice. Now the Persians were not comfortable with Zerubbabel as a political king, and I have a good friend that wrote a book about David as a politician. We're not dealing with that. They were more comfortable with a priestly king modeled after David. Okay, we go on to our next screen and we read, David said to Nathan, I live in a house of cedar, while the Lord abides in a tent. Now we're getting into words. Live and abides are very important. That night the Lord said to Nathan, I have never lived in a house since I brought Israel out of Egypt. So say to David, did I ever ask on the journey why you had not built me a house? When you lie with your ancestors, I will raise up your seed and I will establish his kingdom. We go on to the next screen. 7:14, I will be a father to him and he will be a son to me. If he does evil, I will punish him, but I will not take my love from him. For your house and your kingdom will last forever. This is the great promise to David, that out of his seed would come a great Messiah. We believe now that God was always working to use the editors, Ezra and his friends, to inspire those in death's dark shadows. They were very overcast and down in exile, to remember God's promise to David of a Messiah. Thank you so much for joining us for this 172nd segment of our Journey of Faith in the Light of the Cross, and I hope you continue to journey with us in our future segments.
Oh come, thou rod of Jesse, free thine own from Satan's tyranny. From depths of hell that people save, and give them victory o'er the grave. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.